Hello, welcome to the demonstration for the Who is Doing What decision-based editing strategy. For this strategy, I chose one paragraph from a college essay that I've written, and in this strategy, I'm going to be focusing on looking at my sentences to see if I can find the subject and the verb, and then I'll be looking at the end of the sentence to see if I'm punctuating it in a way that stops the sentence. So I'm going to begin by using the questions who is doing what to start to help me find some of the subjects and verbs in my sentence. So I'm going to start with the first one. Salva's uncle teaches him that hope can grow one step at a time. Okay, great. When I read that sentence out loud, it does sound like a complete thought to me. And now I'm just going to double check to see if it has a subject and a verb. And I'm using the who is doing what. So in this sentence, who is teaching him? Salva's uncle. So now I know Salva's uncle is the subject. And what is his uncle doing? He is teaching. So now I'm using that who is doing what. And when I read it out loud, Salva's uncle teaches him that hope can grow one step at a time. Okay, so I believe that first one is a sentence. It has a period at the end to stop it, so that's good, and it has a subject and a verb. So I'm going to move on to the next one. And I'm reading the sentence, this lesson is critical to Salva's survival in the Akobo Desert, where he and the others walk for 3 days and nights under the most extreme heat and severe lack of food and water, and food. So I know that I'm not looking for an action because I see the word is there, and I know that that is a linking verb. So I know right away that I'm probably going to use a different question to ask. So what uh, what word is connecting? What is the sentence about? It's this lesson. So this lesson I think is going to be the subject, and then the word is connecting this lesson to words that describe this lesson, which are critical to Salva's survival in the Akobo Desert. Okay, so that's the main sentence right there. So this lesson is critical to Salva's survival in the Akobo Desert. That's the main sentence. The stuff that comes after the comma, those are the modifiers. So I don't need, I'm not looking there yet. So this lesson is critical to Salva's survival in the Akobo Desert. So I'm going to say that is the verb, and it's connecting this lesson to critical to Salva's survival. So I'm going to say this lesson is a subject. And when I read it out loud, this lesson is critical to Salva's survival in the Akobo Desert, where he and the others walk for 3 days and nights under the most extreme heat and a severe lack of water and food. Yes, it does complete a thought in my mind, and it does have a subject and a verb, so I think I'm okay there. I am noticing that my sentence is using a comma here, and I think it is correctly using the comma here because this clause right here, where he and the others walk for 3 days and nights, that is actually a descriptive. It's describing, giving me more information about this sentence, so I'm going to keep that the way it is. Okay. Just when Salva wants to give up, his uncle says to him, "Do you see that group of bushes? You need only walk as far as those bushes. Can you do that? Salva may win Dut Arik." Okay, so just when Salva wants to give up. So to me, I'm looking for the main verb and the main subject, and I know that just when Salva wants to give up is introducing the main part of the sentence. So I'm going to look here in this part of the sentence. This is a part of the sentence where if I took everything else in the sentence away, this actually could be a complete thought. So his uncle says to him. So I'm going to look there. And so I'm going to use my who is doing what. Who says to him? His uncle. And what is his uncle doing in the sentence? His uncle says something to him. So I've just identified his uncle as a subject and says as the verb. And when I read it out loud, just when Salva wants to give up, his uncle says to him, "Do you see that group of bushes? You need only walk as far as those bushes. Can you do that? Salva may win Dut Arik." Page 53 with a period. When I read that out loud, it does sound like a complete sentence. And when I looked at the independent clause in that sentence, I found the subject and the verb by asking who is doing what. So I know I have a subject and a verb. I know I have a complete thought, and I know I've ended my sentence with a period, which is a correct way to terminate a sentence. So now I'm going to say that that is definitely a sentence. Okay, so let me look at this next one. By focusing on just reaching the bushes ahead of him, Salva learns how to break the long, horrible journey down into smaller steps that bring him closer and closer to reaching his destination. His uncle teaches Salva, wait a minute. I feel like my sentence actually ended here So it looks like I might be using a comma here where I should be using a period, but I'm going to put a period there for now. And now I'm going to go back to the beginning and read that sentence again. So by focusing on just reaching the bushes ahead of him, I know that's not the main part of the sentence. I'm going to be looking here and asking my question, who is doing what? So who is doing what? Who is doing something? Salva. What is he doing? He learns. So Salva learns how to break the long, horrible journey down into smaller steps. Okay, so I think that's the main part of the sentence. So now I know I have a subject and a verb. And when I read it out loud, by focusing on just reaching the bushes ahead of him, Salva learns how to break the long, horrible journey down into smaller steps that bring him closer and closer to reaching his destination. Yep, I like the period there. So I definitely want to keep that period because I think in my earlier version I was trying to use a comma to stop my sentence and it wasn't. A comma can't do that. So I need to use a period or another punctuation mark that has a power to end a sentence. So I like that edit. So now I need to change this H to capital H. So his uncle teaches Salva how to build hope out of tiny steps. Okay, so who teaches Salva? His uncle. So there's my subject. And what does his uncle do? Teaches. So now I know I have his uncle as a subject, teaches as a verb, and when I read it out loud, his uncle teaches Salva how to build hope out of tiny steps. It sounds like a complete thought, and I know it has a subject and a verb, and it ends with a punctuation mark that does have the power to end a sentence, so it ends with a period. So I'm going to check that one off as a sentence that's working. Let me do the next one. Salva uses this lesson throughout the novel, especially when he's feeling alone and scared. So who uses this lesson? Salva. That's my subject. Salva does what? He uses this lesson throughout the novel. So uses is my verb. And when I read it out loud, Salva uses this lesson throughout the novel, especially when he's feeling alone and scared. Yep, and I'm ending with a period. So now I know I have a sentence. I have a subject, Salva, verb uses. When I read it out loud, it's a complete thought, and I'm ending it with a period. So now I know I have a complete sentence in that one too. So I'm going to do the next one. Anyone can learn from Salva's uncle. Okay, so who can learn? Anyone. So there's my subject. And what can anyone do? Can learn. So there's my verb. And it's a really short sentence, but it is a complete thought. So anyone can learn from Salva's uncle. So I have my subject, my verb. I have a period to end a sentence. So I know I have a sentence. I'm feeling confident that that one's a sentence. Okay. Here comes my next one. A frightening task or a seemingly insurmountable goal can be reached, and it starts with building incremental moments of hope that take a person from one step to the next until he reaches his goal. Okay, so this one, I'm looking here and I know I'm combining two complete thoughts. I'm combining two complete sentences together with this comma and this conjunction. So I'm going to look for the subject and the verb in the first one, in the first complete sentence, and then I'm going to look for it in the next one. So I believe I have a compound subject here where I have a frightening task or a seemingly insurmountable goal. So what can be reached? A task or a goal. So I know that a frightening task or a seemingly insurmountable goal, those are working together as my subject of my sentence, and can be reached is my verb. So when I read that out loud, a frightening task or a seemingly insurmountable goal can be reached. And I think I have a complete sentence here, but I'm combining them. So, and I'm doing it correctly here. I'm having a comma and a conjunction and to combine this complete sentence with this next one. So what starts? It starts. So it is my subject. And what is it doing? It starts. Okay, so it starts with building incremental hope that can take a person. It starts with building. So I think I would say that this is a subject and this right here would be my, this would be my starts. Yeah, I think starts would be my verb there. And when I read it out loud, it starts with building incremental moments of hope that take a person from one step to the next until he reaches his goal. Okay, so I think I have a complete independent clause here, which could work on its own as its own sentence, but I do like how it's combined with the comma and the coordinating conjunction and then here is a complete sentence. And I've ended the compound sentence with a period, so I believe I have a sentence there as well. Okay, my next sentence. Salva is 11. So I know that there is no action verb. I think it's obviously it's a linking verb, so I'm going to look here. So who is 11? Salva, there's my subject. What word is connecting salva to 11? My linking verb, there's is. So I know I have a subject and a verb, but I'm suspicious of this comma. I think maybe I need to put a period there, but let me read it out loud to see if it sounds like a complete thought. Salva is 11, the perfect age for learning to build hope. Yes, I think I need, yeah, it looks like I'm doing it again. I'm trying to end a sentence with a comma when I need to put a period there. So I'm going to put a period there. Now I'm going to read it. Salva is my subject. Is my linking verb. When I read it out loud, salva is 11, the perfect age for learning to build hope. It is a complete thought, and now I have a period at the end. So if I'm using my sentence checklist, I definitely have a sentence there. So here's another one with another linking verb, the next one. He is a young adult who will face many obstacles in life. Obstacles he can overcome one step or one bush at a time. Okay, so the main part of that sentence is right here. So if I'm looking at who is a young adult, he is. So in this sentence, the word he is the subject, and the linking verb is connecting he to a young adult. And then these are all modifiers that are adding more information to this sentence, adding more information about what kind of young adult he is. So I'm really, to make sure I have a sentence, I'm going to focus on this part to make sure I have a subject and a verb, and I do. And when I read it out loud, it does complete a thought, and I am using a period at the end. So what I did for this activity is I used the sentence checklist, and I asked myself who is doing what if I had an action verb, and I asked myself if I had a linking verb like is, then I asked myself what word is connecting the subject to the words that are describing the subject. And that helped me find my subjects and my verbs. And then I looked at the end of my sentences to make sure that I was ending them with a punctuation mark that has the power to end a sentence. I found that I had a little bit of trouble with commas. I was ending some of my sentences with commas, so I changed those to periods. All right, well, that was my demonstration of the